Welcome to the latest edition of the GUTSY podcast. Today we've got a fantastic guest, comedian, raconteur, superstar of the Fringe. Is that all right?
Yeah, I just raconteur is that sounds good. I like that.
Yeah. I've seen it in a poster somewhere. Well, Liam Withnail, welcome to the GUTSY podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for having me. This is such a cool idea, set up. I'm excited to chat about myself for an hour, as always.
I've never met a comedian who doesn't enjoy that, to be honest with you.
All narcissists.
Yeah, very much so. But anyway, enough about your fellow comedians. I'm not sure when this will go out, but right now you're in the midst of the world-renowned Fringe.
That's right. I'm doing a show called Chronic Boom, which, I'm sure we'll get into. But a couple of years ago, I had an extended hospital stay down to my ulcerative colitis. So I came out of hospital, wrote a show about my time in hospital. I did it at the Edinburgh Festival last year. And it went very well. And so we've brought it back for a couple, just one-off special. My agents are calling it a victory lap, but nice. I think that sounds a bit pretentious when I say it, you know. So we're just bringing back an old show. So we're doing that at the festival at the moment. It's been a lot of fun. It's been brilliant. There's always so many people who are affected by the condition, by ulcerative colitis, by Crohn's, or people who have family members who have that, and it gives them an insight into what it's like. And actually as well, lots of people with other sort of chronic illnesses and conditions who find some, familiarity in what I'm talking about as well. Extended hospital stays and medication and all that stuff that's, accessible to a lot of different people. So
when you do the show, do you have to book a kind of couple hours after it to talk to people about things?
I actually do. I have to. I end the show and I say, look, I'll be in a bar opposite across the road if anyone wants to come and have a chat. And there's often, a good group of people who, for whatever reason, want to come say hello about, tell me about their own experience, or sometimes share their own like funny stories, things that have happened to them over the years that are similar to all the things in the show. And it's amazing. I've met so many people in the community now who, have had similar experiences.
But I think, I know we'll go in depth and we'll go back to your story and how your UC came about. But I think the beauty in what you're doing, and it's something that we speak about a lot in the GUTSY podcast, is the more we talk about this, the more we talk about the challenges the inflammatory bowel disease community have, then that kind of normalises it. It educates people, and the fact that that you as a comedian can. I mean, let's face it, at its core, it's not funny. Of course it's not. But you can shine that light on it that really highlights it in a different way. I mean, I can only see that being a massive thing for inflammatory bowel disease, what you're doing.
Yeah, and I guess at its core, it's not funny. And when you're in it, when you're in hospital and every morning you're getting your results from your blood test that tells you how inflamed your organs are, and the doctors are saying to you, if this doesn't go down tomorrow, we're going to operate. When that's happening, it's not funny. But then with some time, then you can start to see sort of the funnier moments that happen whilst you're there, and talking about that, and then having people in the audience go, oh yeah, that happened to me too. That was funny. Or, that is the beautiful part about it, about being able to, because you've got to, this is a condition that I'm going to have forever. And that sometimes is difficult, but you've got to try and see the funny side of things and try and enjoy your life and just deal with what's been dealt with to you,
Yeah, definitely. And I think humour is a brilliant coping mechanism as well.
Absolutely.
And there'll be a lot, having seen a bit of your show when you did Comedy Cronies last year for the Catherine McEwan Foundation. Like listening to it, I'm going, I've heard this like incidents like this lots of times, and how you do that and the skill that you've got is, for me it's phenomenal, and it's a great thing. And as I say, humour, it's a great coping mechanism, but it's a great way of really getting under the bonnet of something as well.
Yeah, it's it's an educational show as well. People who know nothing about inflammatory bowel disease come away with like a much greater understanding of what it means day to day, as well as the nitty gritty of the effects of different medications and all that stuff. But you know, it was a coping mechanism for me as well, writing the show. You know,
absolutely.
It was me dealing with my new reality of coming to terms with living with this condition and how serious it was. Because when I was first diagnosed, I didn't really appreciate exactly how serious it was.
Had you heard of it before?
Not colitis, you know.
No. Crohn's?
Crohn's I'd heard of. I think Crohn's is probably just a bit more well-known, maybe, the name, even though colitis, I think, is more, like there are more cases of colitis, is my understanding, than there are Crohn's. But yeah, I hadn't heard of it until the first time I heard of it, actually, was during my colonoscopy. I was...
Lovely. Pivotal moment.
Yeah, I you know, so I'd been, you know, to the doctor a bunch after a few incidents, and I went from my whole colonoscopy was a nightmare, to be honest, because you're not supposed to eat for 24 hours beforehand, which, I mean, dreadful thing to do to a person. Can't eat for 24 hours, and you have to have your laxatives in the morning.
Beautiful.
So you start your day with laxatives. So I thought, well, if I'm going to not eat for 24 hours, then I'm going to have a big breakfast to help me, you know?
This sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, well, so I had my big full English breakfast, right? And then I had my laxatives, and then I'm like, right, well, now I'm 24 hours, no food, colonoscopy tomorrow, like 7 a.m, I think it is. Terrible way to start the day. So it gets to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And you know, the laxatives have taken their effect. So by that point, you're feeling pretty hungry anyway, right? Because your breakfast is long gone. Right? That's worked its way through pretty significantly thanks to the laxatives. But then the hospital phoned me, and they said, we have to rearrange your colonoscopy. We can't do tomorrow now.
Oh man, that's the best news.
They said, we can do it the day after at 7 a.m. And I said, okay, so what do I do now? And they said, well, just don't eat for 48 hours instead. Oh. And I said, no chance. There's not a hope in hell I'm doing that. I'm gonna have dinner, and then I'm gonna start again tomorrow. And they said, let me check with the doctor if that's okay. And I said, you're gonna have to tell the doctor that that's gonna be okay, because there's not a hope in hell that I'm sitting in my house 48 hours, laxatives only. And then they phoned back and they said, okay, we're sending you some more laxatives. And then I got on the phone to Domino's Pizza, and I had one of the biggest meals of my life. But anyway, I got actually to the colonoscopy finally, and I remember you're awake during a colonoscopy, right?
Yeah.
So there's a screen, a TV screen, and they have the camera, obviously, where the sun don't shine. And I remember looking and thinking, you know, you can see the inside of your guts. And I remember looking at it and thinking, that doesn't look good. I'm not a doctor, but I don't think my guts should be that color. And the doctor said immediately, they looked at the screen and they said, it's colitis, which they're supposed to do tests and, you know, you find out. Yeah, the doctors just looked at it and said, it's colitis. And that was the first time I'd ever heard the word colitis. Yeah. And so I left the hospital. They gave me some leaflets. I said to my wife, I've got colitis, did a quick Google. They said, we're going to put you on this medication. And I just thought, well, that's that. I just have this medication and that's it, fixed. Nothing to worry about now. That's it. Yeah. Which it ended up not being the case, not being as simple as that. But that was, the first time I'd ever heard it.
Quite not ideal by any stretch of imagination, but you know, that's kind of the great thing for me, if I can take any positive out of that scenario, is that they recognised it right away.
Yeah, but I think that's because it was in such an inflamed condition, my bowel, that they just knew straight away that that's what it was. But it was good that I didn't have to wait around, because the diagnosing process takes a long time. And I mean, that the colonoscopy happened probably 6 or 7 months after my first time speaking to a doctor about it, you know? Right. So it was a long process. And then I was given, Pentasa was the first drug I was given, which I think is sort of standard first issue ulcerative colitis medication. And I just thought, right, I'll take 2 of these a day and that's it.
you'll be grand.
Yeah.
We know that wasn't the case, but let's go back to this when you first started the journey, if you will, with symptoms and how that kind of materialised.
Yeah, so I've to be honest, I think I probably should have been diagnosed many years ago.
Yeah. I think that's quite common.
Yeah.
And you know something, I know that, the guys at Crohn's and Colitis UK, great friends of ours and have been since day one of the Catherine McEwan Foundation. They've even had a brilliant campaign on within the last year or so for, real push in early diagnosis. And I know that they had that kind of symptom checker, and guys, I'm sure that if anybody's watching, they still have that. Mm-hmm. And it was like people, they maybe got stomach issues, and they were just taking it in their stride and not really thinking about it, and it was just part of their lives. Maybe subtle symptoms to begin with, and they were saying, look, go and get it checked out. And I think they've got an astronomical amount of people that thankfully have went and got that checked out. Some people have, they've went down the road that, they've got a diagnosis. Some people it was something that was less serious or whatever, but at least they've gone and done that, because I think people can just take it. If something's not right, they almost ignore it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I've had probably stomach issues my whole life, really. I just assumed it was IBS. I just thought it's IBS, and so there's nothing I can do about it. So I just have a bad tummy sometimes. And I don't want to go to a doctor about it, because a doctor might say, well, you're lactose intolerant and I don't want to give up cheese. It was as simple as that. I just thought I'll just put it off, not going to think about it, basically. So, for years I was going to the toilet more often than you should. But probably not so much it was completely ruining my life at first. But it was just slowly, over the course of, a 5-6 year period, just incrementally getting worse, to the point where I didn't even realise that I was going 10, 15 times a day. Because but
listening to you there, it became your normal.
Yeah.
But for people that don't understand or live a regular life of lavatory visits, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But it became your normal.
100%. Because it starts off year one, you're going, 5 times a day, which even still is way too much.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
If you've had that your whole life, then that's your normal. You go 5 times a day. And then the next year it's 6 times a day. And the next year it's 7 times a day. And then before you know it, you're being caught out in public and you're having to run into loos. And you just, because it's so incremental, you don't realise quite how strange and crazy it is. And because you don't really hear people talk about it very often. I mean, I've never, until I've been to a doctor with this condition, I'd never been asked, how often do you go to the toilet? No one had ever said that to me.
Yeah.
Because it's not a question you would ever ask someone. But, things like the IBD checker on the Crohn's and Colitis website does ask that.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to look and go, God, that's actually...
but see when somebody actually puts something into the data profiling or whatever it is, or actually writes something down, and you go, 15's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a reality check, isn't it?
Yeah, and also, to be honest, yes, it might have been 10 times a day, but I wasn't counting because I wasn't thinking about it. Like if someone said, how many times a day did you go to the toilet? I wouldn't say, 11 times yesterday. I just think, well, I just went when I needed to go.
Quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few. And it didn't really...
Spending loads in Laviro.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just something I'd never really considered. And then I signed up to do the London Marathon. I'm a runner, always loved running. And I found, it was the second time I'd done a marathon, and I found the training really, really hard.
What was your first marathon?
It was London as well.
Oh, you done London twice?
Yeah.
Oh, very, very, very privileged.
Absolutely. So the first one, I injured myself during training, so I managed to do it on the day, but it was really difficult. I had a bad hip, so I wanted to do it again to do it properly. And so I was training, and every time I went out, it just felt like I should be getting fitter, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And I've been a long distance runner for a really long time, but this time, for whatever reason, I run 5 minutes and I'm out of breath. Yeah. And I just thought, well, I just must be so, there's been a pandemic, I haven't been doing as much exercise, I must just be so unfit that I can't, and I didn't contemplate there's something else going on. I'm ill. What was happening, I was having a flare-up, an undiagnosed flare-up of ulcerative colitis, a condition I didn't know I had. So, you know, I'm trying to run. It's not working. I'm out of breath. The reason I'm out of breath is because I'm anemic, because of the amount of blood I'm losing when I go to the toilet, and the fatigue and everything, you know, but I just think I'm unfit. So I decide, you know, it's 2 weeks before the marathon at this point, and my fitness is dreadful, but I've raised money. I'm running for Amnesty International, and I've raised, you know, $5,000 or whatever.
Phenomenal.
And so I think, well, I've got to do it. So I think, well, I'll run a mile and I'll walk a mile. That's how I'll do it. And then I'll still do a marathon.
Yeah, because at that point, I mean, I've done a couple of these things myself, and I've been far from a natural athlete. It's about getting from A to B and raising a few quid into the bargain, and your medal's the same as anybody else's. It's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't exactly delighted about it because I'm a runner, and I would like, but I had been training, and I thought it was strange that I wasn't getting any fitter. And before I knew it was marathon day, and you know, I'm there, and I go, right, I'll run a mile, walk a mile, and I did that. I had a bad stomach on the day, so you know that means using the portaloos along the London Marathon route, which, you know, really disgusting. But so it took about 6.5 hours. Right, I got through it. I met my wife at the end, and we went for dinner, and went for a pizza. Finished the pizza, no problem, and then I fainted, which had never happened in my life before. I've never fainted, you know.
In the restaurant?
In the restaurant. Literally, I fainted in front of my wife, and she was terrified, you know. She thought I'd died. And then I came to about 20 seconds later, and I'd had an accident. I had, and this was the basis of like a big comedy routine that I wrote later on, was, you know, shitting yourself in a pizza restaurant post marathon. But
great advert for the pizza restaurant.
Absolutely, Pizza Pilgrims, go check them out. But at the time, you know, it wasn't funny. It was really scary.
Of course.
I'd ran a marathon, so I felt, you know, even though I'd walked half of it, it'd still been a long day. And
mate, you're on the go for, well, it's 6.5 hours.
Yeah,
the actual thing, but for the time you get up in the morning and all that kind of stuff, it's a long time. Yeah,
so we got back to the hotel, and, you know, I showered and cleaned up, and I still didn't really think there was something wrong with me, even though I'd fainted, and because I thought, well, I've run a marathon, so
yeah. Because sometimes when you do something like that, and if you're maybe taking energy gels, and you're maybe picking stuff up on the route, your stomach can play funny buggers.
I thought my stomach was being weird. I'm just knackered.
Yeah.
You know, I knew I wasn't very fit, and I've done this incredibly. Look, people faint at marathons. That is something that happens.
And you know, super fit people do it.
Yeah. So I didn't think much about it. And then a couple weeks after, I was back in my house, and I got home from a gig, and I just started. I was like trying to chill out after my gig. I just had the YouTube on or something, and that was the first time I got the really bad stomach cramps. And I was like, it was midnight in my living room. Wife was in bed, and I was on the floor, like clutching my stomach. It was every few minutes, it was just squeezing, and I was just on the floor in agony. And it sort of calmed down after about 90 minutes. I went to bed. I told my wife in the morning, and it took her. You know, she was the one who eventually said, well, you need to go to a doctor. And then she phoned, and I got my appointment that day. And that was the first time I'd ever spoken to a doctor about my gut health. Before that, it'd never come up in any conversation.
Yeah.
So from that point, you know, that was first time there, you know, they go, finger up the bum, you know, all of that, and book in your colonoscopy, and they take your blood tests and all that, and they immediately could see something was wrong, and the blood test came back heavily anemic, so, you know, iron tablets, and then it took 6 months after that to get the colitis diagnosis, and to realise, I ran a marathon during a flare-up of colitis. And you know, when I first told my IBD doctor that, they said, you're lucky really that it wasn't so much worse, because you were really seriously unwell when you ran a marathon. I mean, running a marathon is an incredibly hard thing to do, even if you're fit and healthy. And yeah, I did it during a flare-up of a really serious condition. So we were lucky to get out with just some stained boxers and and fainting, to be honest. And it is what actually, you know, ended up, that was the starting point for me getting the diagnosis. So had I not done that, I could still be living now without knowing what's going on,
But the thing is that if you had the diagnosis before, that was the catalyst for that journey to get the diagnosis. 6 months is still quite a long time, and a lot can happen in that period. So we'd like to think, but unfortunately 6 months is quite a short time for some people because it takes them so long to get diagnosed sometimes.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky that I live in Edinburgh, so I think it's always a bit quicker in capital cities and where there's lots of hospitals and, they're much quicker. I think if you live somewhere a bit more isolated, then I can absolutely, because, it was 6 months for me to get a colonoscopy appointment, but if you lived in the middle of nowhere or something, it'd take much longer.
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult. The thing as well is that in Edinburgh, they've got the inflammatory bowel disease. Easy for me to say, inflammatory bowel disease teams are phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's so much talent between the paediatric and the adult hospitals that you're definitely.
And I got to know them very well because I started on the Pentasa, and I just kind of thought, oh yeah, this is what I have now. That's fine. I didn't see much quality of life difference, which again I didn't really know. I wasn't told, right, you take this and then you'll go to the toilet once a day. And that's fine. If it's any more than that, you need to call us. Nobody said that to me.
Yeah.
So I just took them and it didn't really make a huge amount of difference. And it wasn't, I was away with my wife on holiday. We were in Lisbon and we went for a spa day. And I don't know if it was a dehydration from the sauna or something else, but I got another round of stomach cramps that day and we had to cancel everything the next day. I was in a hotel room, just in incredible pain. And we had a chat and said, well, when we get back, we need to go see the RBD clinic and find out what's going on because this medicine doesn't appear to be working. And that's when I went in and had the blood test and they found out there was incredible inflammation in my bowel. So I don't know if you've spoken on the podcast about like the CRP sort of numbers before and
I've touched on that, but we're interested in what your experience is.
Yeah, so I was told that the CRP test is a blood test where you kind of get a score that tells you how inflamed your organs are, and anything under 5 is considered nothing to worry about. Your organs aren't inflamed. You can go home and continue with your life. And mine came back as 84. So 84 out of 5, which I say in the show is the best result in any test I've ever had in my life. But that was alarm bells are ringing, and they said you're going to be here for a few days whilst we try and bring this number down. So that was the start of my first hospital stay. I was there for 10 days. They put you on steroids, put you on the prednisolone, and that was a new thing. I mean, every medication you get new side effects. The one with steroids is the weight gain. I put on a couple stone over the next. I was on steroids for about 4 months, just constant eating. That's it. It's a strange side effect. You just get the munchies. You just can't stop. You have a huge dinner, a big 3-course meal, a big roast dinner or something, and then 10 minutes later you're
starving.
Yeah, exactly. And you tell me, it's like, where's dinner? What time is dinner? And you're like, we've just had dinner, and because you're feeling ill, you're sort of going, well, I'm ill, I'll have some Maltesers, and you're not eating the best things.
Is it a comfort eating?
Absolutely. There's a lot of comfort eating. So you put on a lot of weight, and but I was in hospital the first time for 10 days. So I was on the steroids and the infliximab, trying to get that number down to 5 to go home again. So
they got it down to 5 within that 10 days?
They got it down to 5 within the 10 days, but it was very close. I mean, it was steadily coming down, and then on day 6, I think the number shot back up.
Right.
And that was the point where they said, if the number doesn't come down by tomorrow again, then we'll operate. You have the ileostomy and fit with a stoma bag, which is that's scary.
Mega scary.
I've met a lot of people who've had that condition, that have had that procedure, and all of them have said that it's like the best thing that's ever happened to them because it means that they can, live a life without worrying about what they eat.
It's quality of life.
Absolutely.
Gives them a life back.
But at the same time, it's scary to be told
of course it is.
at the age of 33 that you might have to have a stoma bag fit. So it did come down the next day, and then a few days later, then was able to go home, get back to my gigs and everything, get back to my work. And then I think 2 months later, same thing, went for a blood test, the number's up, you have to go into hospital. So I was back there this time for another 5 days, and they said, right, the infliximab isn't working. We'll put you on a new drug. They put me on the azathioprine, and I was on that for about 3 or 4 months, I think. And that was the last. So that was 2020. October 2022 was the last extended hospital stay. So we're a couple of years away from that now. But since then, I think we've been on 3 or 4 medications, and it's difficult. Every time you get meds, you have to wait for 6 or 7 months to see if they've been really working, and sometimes they feel like they're working, but then maybe not working as well as they should be, and then you have to try new meds, and then there's new side effects and new issues or new ways of taking them. I mean, the infliximab, you have to go and sit on a drip in the hospital, so that would mean that goes in the diary. You've got to be here on the 2nd of January. So I'm a stand-up comedian, touring stand-up comedian, so okay, well, I can't gig somewhere far away then, No, I've got this new routine built around this appointments at a hospital that have to happen once every 2 months, no matter what, which was limiting for a while. I mean, I had to cancel a lot of international work. I was supposed to be doing gigs in Dublin and Dubai and all other places, and I couldn't go because I got my appointment, and that's too important, Yeah. Infliximab didn't work. Then you get put on the pills. The pills are much easier. I can take the pills with me places. So at the moment, I'm on a drug called upadacitinib, which is, I don't know what it is.
I think you should get an award just because you can pronounce all these things.
Yeah. Azathioprine and upadacitinib were the toughest ones. But it's the ones I'm on at the moment, I like them. It's one pill every morning. That's the best thing. It's just a pill every day, and I feel a lot better. I was just telling before we started recording that had some tests recently, and they said, it's not really working. Your calprotectin is not quite as good as it should be. So we'll see. We'll test again in a few months, and if it's not improved, then we'll have to move on to the next round of meds. And that's tough because first off, it's very strange to feel well and be told that you're not well.
Yeah, and the thing is, some of the guys that have the experience the opposite way of it, where they feel terrible and they're saying, no, there's something not right. Yeah. But all the markers are fine, but
yeah. I don't know which is better. I guess the one I have is better because I do feel good, and I'm able to lose the weight and go to the gym and do all that stuff, and I'm not running to the toilet all the time. And but yeah, you get the letter that says, your calprotectin's low, so we'll try again in a few months. The second difficult thing with that is then you have the anxiety of, okay, well, this next one I need these test results to be better because this medication is my favorite one so far.
Yeah.
It's just a pill every morning. I want to keep this one. And the next one might not be as easy. The next one might be injections.
Yeah.
Or, back on the drip or infusions. It also, every one that doesn't work brings you one step closer to having to have the operation. Which, again, if you have to have, you'll make your peace with it. People live really full and brilliant lives having had that procedure, but it is one that for my own, career and health is something I'm trying to avoid at the moment, So at the moment, we're just fingers crossed for these next tests and that they come back and it's clicked and it's all working. But if not, we move. I feel very lucky to be going through this now as opposed to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, doing the show, I've met people who were diagnosed with colitis in the 70s.
Yeah.
There was one medicine, and if that didn't work, that's it. And so we've got the list of stuff I can take there's like 10 or 12 different medications on there. There's new ones coming out all the time. So, there are benefits, and it's just about trying to see them when you can.
Yeah. And I think your attitude to it's really commendable because listening to your story, every time, you've been on a number of different medications. Every time that they say that that's not working or you feel it's not working and you need to change that, it must be pretty demoralising to go, another one.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
It kind of depends because some of them is I know they're not working.
Yeah.
So if I'm taking medication and, I'm still getting that thing where it's a very specific thing where I'm walking home from work or whatever, and I just get the sudden it's the worst thing for me about the condition is the urgency of needing to go to the toilet. that's the real panic stations when you're walking home and it just goes, you need to find a toilet now. And, you know, I'm having to pull over to the side of the road and hold on to like a fence and just squeeze and just like do some deep breathing and try not to have an accident in public, which, you know, I joke about that a lot in my show. It is funny, but, you know, at the time, it's not funny because you're going, oh my God, I'm going to have an accident in public. I'm about 10 minutes from my house. What am I going to do here? So there's been times I've gone through that whilst on medication and I'm like, well, these meds aren't working. I need to get on to the next one because, like you say, quality of life.
But again, one of the positive things that comes out of that, not everybody's the same. It's about that kind of self-management piece, isn't it? You've kind of get used to how you're adapted rather to how your body's functioning. You're fully accepted, you know, and embraced and embraced it so much you've written a show about it.
Yeah.
That you're UC and. Not everybody's like that. You know, they maybe don't have the acceptance. They don't have that self-management either to recognise things. You know, we all make wrong choices. That's just human nature.
Yeah.
But you know, they're maybe making more of them. That's not helping.
It's hard as well. You know, one of the biggest triggers really for flare-ups is stress. Yeah. You know, and I mean that is something that I do sometimes make bad choices in because I'm used to, you know, I've been a comedian for a long time. I'm self-employed. I can choose what I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Writing a show and doing it at the Edinburgh Festival is an incredibly stressful thing. And I was not long out of hospital when I started that. So there are a lot of doctors and who would have said, you know, you shouldn't be doing this, you know, because it was a lot, you know, it's a traumatic thing to go through. And maybe it didn't help things, you know. So I make probably some mistakes as well. It worked out and it was okay, but I think it's hard to. I understand why people have the difficulty with the acceptance of being told, no, you're not well, you need to take it easy, or you see this favorite food that you have, it causes a flare up, so you shouldn't have that anymore. I mean, there's, you know, oh gosh, I miss garlic chili chicken from the Indian so much.
Is that just one of the ones that's definite no go for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a no-go for most people anyway. It's a really spicy curry, right? But I know if I have it, I'm gonna mess myself up for a few days. So that's something I'm really good on. I don't have it anymore, but I miss it and it's tough. And I can imagine, especially, you know, I don't drink, right? But I know some people, they get Crohn's or colitis and, you know, they kind of figure out that, right, alcohol is a bad trigger. I shouldn't have alcohol. But I can understand, you know, stressful day at work or whatever, or stuff going on with family, or celebrating, you know, something good happening, and you know, someone gives you a pint of Guinness, and you think, God, I'll just have a couple, you know, and it's not good for you. Yeah, well, exactly, and it's not good for you. But it's difficult. That's one of the hard things to manage is the stress and the diet side of things, because, you know, you just want to live your life, you know, and it's about trying your hardest to get it right and not being too hard on yourself when you get it wrong. But I can understand for sure why people have trouble accepting that side of things. Yeah,
I think you've touched on something that's really important for people that are watching and listening to this, is that don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah,
you know, and that because it's hard enough with it people being that like, so tough on themselves, and I think that comes to a lot of people that are going through that. They're just, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't. Do you know what? You have some, but move on.
Absolutely.
You know, learn for that. You know, just talking about, you know, the garlic chili curry's not for you, and you know you don't drink. So, but a lot of the guys that within our community that I know personally, they'll say, right, I just need to pick my battles, because I still want to go out with my pals. I still want to have that celebration. I still want to do stuff, or have a few beers on holiday or whatever it is. But I just need to choose them, because I know that I'm going to be shit for a few days after it.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, you know, there is stuff that I know that I shouldn't really have, That isn't quite as bad as the old garlic chili chicken, but like, you know, like a ramen. Like I love loads of ramen became a really trendy food in the last few years.
Yeah, that's pretty hipster.
Yeah, there's Edinburgh has all these great ramen places, and there was one in particular that I haven't had since this condition was diagnosed, because it's called the Hell Ramen, right? And so I know I cannot have any food with the word hell in the title. I mean, that's
clues in it.
Yeah,
clues
absolutely. But even ramen in general, I know it's not going to be great for me. I can just about get away with a non-spicy version now, but I have to look at my diary. I have to go, I've got tomorrow off. I can have ramen for dinner. And then if I have a bit of a dodgy tummy tomorrow, I'm in the house, there's not going to be a problem, you know? But if I look at my diary and I go, I'm gigging in Manchester tomorrow, I'm going to be 3 hours on a train and then, you know, going straight to a comedy club somewhere where I don't really know the setup. I can't have ramen for dinner. I need to be more sensible. I need to have something that's, and it's a trial and error. Like, you know, everyone's going to be different. Everyone's food triggers are going to be different. You have to learn as you go and just try and keep smart about it. But it's difficult. Yeah,
it's constantly trial and error.
Yeah,
that works. That doesn't work. Well, if I have that dish with it, that chili or whatever it is, then I can still go for it. And you know, obviously you're a gigging comedian all over the country and international. Your diagnosis was 4 years ago or so. How has it affected your work?
Yeah, I mean, in the immediate, so the first few months after hospital, I had to cancel a lot of work. Basically, I realised I can't travel at the moment. Whilst I'm in this sort of just out of hospital, we're still figuring out what's going on and how to live with it. You know, I had work booked, as I said, in Dubai and a few other places, and I thought if I go there and have a flare up, then I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
So for the first sort of 6 months after hospital, it was like I can only gig Edinburgh, maybe Glasgow. That's as far as I can go, which was difficult because I'm used to traveling all over the place every weekend. You know, mainly around the UK, but often around Europe and sometimes, you know, further afield. As time's gone on, you know, that has been able to broaden, and I can now go and do my gigs. I did a European tour earlier this year and managed to go crazy schedule, you know, Lisbon, Oslo, Athens, all within a week. Brilliant. So a lot of crazy travel, a lot of time in airports, and you know, that's in a position now where that's possible. So in the immediate, that was a big effect. There was also, I mean, this is something I talk about in the show. The biggest effect I had was having to sort of preempt health issues. So if I get sick, if I have flare-ups, or even if I just feel a little slight rumble in my tummy, right? I can't travel. I know, which is tough because sometimes you feel a slight rumble in your tummy. God, is this the start of a flare-up or is this just a one-day thing? Doesn't matter. Got a gig in Liverpool tonight. I can't go, right? So how does that affect writing a show for the Edinburgh Festival? My panic was that if I wrote a show for Edinburgh, the way I get that ready is you sort of start writing a show in January and then you do fringe previews.
Yeah.
Take them all over the country, right? Anywhere so, you know, Manchester on a Monday, London on a Tuesday, Belfast on a Wednesday, right? So you basically sort of do a pre-tour, cheap tickets. This is the kind of practice run out for the new show.
Check out what works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What if I get sick then? You know, what if I can't practice the show and then suddenly I'm in Edinburgh and my show's not ready? So the show I had to write in a new way. I had to break it up into small segments.
Yeah.
And so that if I got sick, I could go and try it at the local comedy clubs in Edinburgh, the Monkey Barrel Comedy Club or the Stand Comedy Club, and just do them in little 5-minute parts. So having the condition completely changed the way that I write shows. And so the show, the Chronic Boom show that I did, it's about the 10 days that I spent in hospital. The show is broken up into 10 different parts, one for each day in hospital, and each part is a 5-minute routine. And it was specifically written like that so that if I got ill, I could still work on the show. If I couldn't travel, I could still go to my local comedy club, do 5 minutes there, 5 minutes there, without having to worry about getting trains down and planes and traveling and late night food. And so that was the biggest immediate effect on my job was it completely changed how I could write shows, because I had to consider, right, I used to just be able to write and do stuff in the way I want. Now I've got this thing that could happen at any moment. So now I need to prepare for that.
But to me, listening to that, that's quite ingenious. How you change that.
Yeah, and this is something I was saying in the show. So it's only really a fraction of how smart people have to be every day. You know what I mean?
Adapt.
Like to adapt, meeting people not just with Crohn's and colitis, but with chronic illnesses and disabilities, and the little life hacks that people have found in to make their life manageable is incredible. You know, the clever tricks people have worked out, or you know, once they know their own individual limits. Is crazy. I mean, so you do the Edinburgh Fringe, it's 25 days. Everyone has a day off in the middle, you know, like they'll do 12 days, then a day off, then they'll do 12 days. And when you have your day off is kind of up for debate, you know, because it's up to you. So another thing that I had to realize was, well, I can't, if I book my day off and then I get sick in the first week, then I've got a day off later on for no reason. So I'm just going to have to book in every single day, not booking a day off, with the expectation I'm probably going to get sick at some point.
Yeah. That'll
be my day off, you know? So that's just something that I learned from my own. As it turned out, I didn't get sick and I didn't end up having a fucking day off, which was not ideal either, because then that's, you know, too much stress. So that was, you know, it's a learning process and you get some stuff wrong, but you just have to think about everything in an entire new way, because you have the possibility of getting ill at any moment, you know, and trying to set up little ways of making sure that you can still get by.
Yeah, and that's part of living with inflammatory bowel disease, isn't it? You know, having those life hacks, but also having a level of preparation to prepare for almost every eventuality. Yeah,
the inevitability that, you know, like I have met people who have UC that haven't had a flare up in 25 years. Brilliant. You know, which is fantastic, but they still know they have UC and they still like accommodate the potentialness of a flare-up, even though it's been 25 years. And so, yeah, that's just something that I have to live with now. I don't leave the house without I've got my, I'm sure you've seen these already. I've got my radar key on me at all times.
Yep.
That's always there, ready to go. I have my can't wait card on me at all times. And, you know, I've got my medicine in my suitcase ready to go. So I've always got it on me. And you just make accommodations for what's been thrown at you.
No, and I think that's sound advice for maybe people that maybe aren't quite at that level of preparation, and maybe other people that are coming into the journey, you know, and kind of thinking about it. So to listen to that life experience and how you navigate life is pretty powerful stuff.
I mean, life's hard for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
And so anybody who's getting through life anyway is well done. Life's hard, but anyone who's got, you know, a diagnosis, well, you're getting through it with this huge extra thing, and just by talking to other people that have it, or you know, listening to stuff like this, if you can pick up one or two little things that go, oh God, actually that would make my life slightly easier, you know, then I think that's great.
No, I would agree. And through your journey, from your diagnosis, how did something that we speak about quite often in the GUTSY podcast, and it's like, it's not just the individual that gets the diagnosis, it's the family, it's the unit that's around them. Mm-hmm. Well, you spoke about your wife earlier on. What's your wife's name?
Lauren,
the lovely Lauren. Yeah. She's obviously been there since day one. She's had that terrible experience when you fainted after the marathon, and you know, how has that affected your family unit?
Yeah, I mean, she was amazing. And you know, if you've got family members who are, you know, if you're lucky enough to have people in your life who are able to help you in the way that she was with me, then, you know, really hold them dear, because when I was in hospital, she came every morning. She didn't have to, you know what I mean? I was being looked after, but I love my coffee. I love a nice coffee in the morning. The coffee in the hospital was terrible. We've got a really fancy coffee machine, so she would...
A coffee snob?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a total snob. And so she would wake up in the morning, she would make beautiful coffee in our nice coffee machine, and she'd put it in a thermos and she'd drive it to make sure I had my nice coffee in the morning. And stuff like that is, that's you just can't. There's nothing that is as good as having someone who just understands what you need in that moment. And she might not know much about ulcerative colitis, or she does know lots now, obviously.
Yeah.
But what I needed in that moment was someone who was just there. You know what I mean? Just there in their own small way, and just being there every morning just made such a huge difference to my day. It meant I was waking up with a little bit of familiarity, a little bit of comfort from home was there waiting for me in the morning. And so, yeah, she's been amazing, and she's good at, if we're in a restaurant and I'm eyeing up the garlic chili chicken, she'll go,
back you come.
Yeah, sure, come on, we can't, but she doesn't keep me on a leash either. That's, you got to have autonomy. And so if I'm feeling good and I'm going, I'm going to have this, then, she's like, right, we'll see, you do you.
Be on your own head.
Well, yeah, and supporting you in that way as well. You're not in detention. You've got to live your life, and so it's really important, I think, to if you have people who have that understanding, to keep them close and keep them informed of what's going on. As well. Like us men, especially, terrible. We're terrible at talking about health issues and what's going on, and so. Sometimes she'll ask, how is your tummy? How often are you going? Because again, it's so easy not to check in, especially once you got your diagnosis and you got your medicine.
Yeah.
And you've not had a flare up in a year, and you don't need to see a doctor every week. It's important to have people who are like, well, let's think, how are we doing? Is it going well? How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
And she's been very good at that as well. So our unit has been pretty much pretty strong throughout the whole thing, and that's an important thing.
And through it, I mean, a lot of the stuff that the things that, part of what we support as a charity in the Catherine McEwan Foundation is the mental health side of things. Mm-hmm. And through that journey, outwardly you're a strong character, you're up on stage, you're sharing the journey, and you've got that humour angle on it, but I mean, it's human nature. You can't be all positive, is there dark moments during that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when I came out of hospital the second time, but was really when I started to wonder, well, can I be a stand-up anymore? Because if I can't travel, if at any moment the hospital phone and say, oh, your blood's come back and it's bad, you need to come in, and can I still do the job? But this is a job I've done all my adult life. Am I just going to be someone who am I stuck in the house now? And when I had very nearly had the operation as well, that was hard mentally, and it still does sort of rest on my mind, because that's not off the table.
No,
we're still, and even if these meds end up working, one day they might just stop working. That sometimes happens. So that is a potential that, as I say, I am still pretty scared of, and that does rest heavy on the brain. It's good. It's so good having met so many people that have had the procedure. That's made me feel a lot better about it mentally, because they're all, they all love their bags. They're all chipper about it, and that's been really helpful to see, and really important to not consider it as a worst case scenario, but more as that might just be something that happens one day, and if it is, then like everything else, you just march on and you just make it work.
Yeah, I think one of the big thing that comes out of speaking to people that have had that procedure is a quality of life, and it gives them their life back. For many, it saved their life. Yeah, absolutely. But when they talk about the quality of life that they've got, and they can lead as close to what people would regard normality, then they're so positive about it. We've got a young ambassador, Stephanie, whose hers is called Stanley.
Great, yeah, love it. And I found mentally, what I found difficult as well was I basically had a year where I was like ordered off exercise, because my body was recovering, and so it was, no running or just very light walks was basically all I was allowed to do. And this was whilst I was on the steroids and eating for two, so huge amount of weight gain and not able to go and work it off. And when you work in my industry, which is on stage in front of people, but also my job has changed a lot. So it's not just on stage in front of people, it's also online sharing clips, which means sitting, editing videos of yourself on stage. So sitting, I mean, nobody likes hearing their own voice or really seeing themselves. You know what I mean? It drives everyone crazy. But when the person you are editing doesn't really, you don't recognize them because they're a few stone bigger than what you're used to sort of thinking of yourself as. Yeah. That mentally was a challenge as well. And that was just something that was like, well, this is just the reality of the situation at the moment. I am bigger and, I can't exercise, and that's such a good thing for me, for my mental health as well.
Absolutely.
But we just got to get through this patch, and then hopefully we can get back out and get the running shoes back on. And
I mean, like obviously within you're in the showbiz, and the society as a whole, it's so image conscious.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at, you've got that double whammy, as you just said. You're not only standing up there, you're in front of people. Now you need to sit and you need to listen to your stuff back so you can edit it to put it out there, because you need to be online, because that's all part of being a comedian these days. You need those little 15, 20 second clips that get people interested in you. And, what was it? You get like 10 million TikTok and Instagram views. I mean, that just doesn't happen itself. It's hard work off the stage, but then you're looking at this different guy.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, that was a tough bit, and it is something that a lot of people with UC and Crohn's have had to have the extended steroids. So it's something that I speak to a lot of people with the condition about, is the moon face, they call it, because you get so bloated and big, and it's hard then to, I mean, losing weight is hard anyway. Losing weight is really difficult.
Unbelievable.
But then
especially as you go older.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're still a young guy, but
but then you get the added aspect of, but also I've got my diet thing as well. So, the sort of foods that I know I can and can't have. So, you're trying to eat well at the same time as lose a bit of weight to get back to recognizing who you are. And if you don't, that's okay. A lot of people, are comfortable in their bodies, and that's important as well to be
Absolutely.
able to, there's no need, necessarily to have to lose the weight fast or anything. I just found it difficult because I'm in a very image conscious industry, for better or worse, and it means that it was something that I was like confronted with on a daily basis, and I just didn't really recognize myself. So that mentally was a struggle, and but.
So what's the turning point there? Because I mean, looking at you, you're looking in great shape. If you don't mind me saying.
No, not at all. I've lost 3 stone since October.
October?
Yeah.
So like 10 months?
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal amount to lose in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Are you still on the laxatives?
No, not quite.
Yeah, Derek, I'm having them for breakfast still.
Yeah. No, I mean, I got a coach, and because it was something that I was, I'd kind of got to my tether with it, and I got sort of confirmation you can go back and do exercise again. So I went, right, well, this is something that's important to me. Is I love keeping fit and doing that. Yeah. That's a big part of my my good mental health. So I got a coach who kind of has just helped work with the condition, and it's fallen off. So at the moment, this is why it's difficult when they say your medicine is not working as well as it should be, because I'm in the gym 4 times a week and I feel great and I'm eating well and all that, and that's the difficulty of it. But yeah, it's mentally now much better for all of it as well. Yeah,
but I mean that I don't think you can ever, anybody, whether they're living with inflammatory bowel disease or living with any condition, or just in general, what we've got as a healthy person, you can't underestimate the benefit of physical exercise in your mental health. Yeah. And that routine and what it comes out, and just, I would imagine, seeing yourself drop that weight within your image conscious. A lot of people are image conscious generally, but within your job as well, and the confidence that must give you in that.
Do you know what's fantastic for your mental health? Everybody you meet for a month telling you look fantastic. It's great. Literally, every like, you know, if you shift 3 stone in a short amount of time, everywhere you go, people say, "Bloody hell, you look good," and that is very good for your mental health.
They're whispering each other, "Is this the same guy?" I don't think. Nah, it's not him. It's definitely not him.
He's on the Ozempic, isn't he? Yeah.
He was a big bloke last week. He was a big bloke.
But the difficulty is still there. I mean, one issue with the current medicine I'm on is the immunosuppressants.
Yeah.
So we've brought the dosage down a little bit now, but the first 6 months particularly, it still does happen, but the first sort of few months particularly, because your immune system's been, you know, brought down in order to control the condition, you're just catching colds and flus and non-stop. So every time you feel like you make progress, I wake up and I'll feel like the tiniest scratch in the back of my throat, and I go, "This is me for 10 days. I know." And then you have to stop taking the meds. You have to, because you don't have an immune system. So any illness is going to run ravid, like will just go crazy inside you.
Yeah, and you're spending so much time in rooms full of people.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially so stuff like the Edinburgh Fringe. I mean, I did the first week of the Edinburgh Fringe. I caught something and I had to lie on the couch for 5 days. You know, and that was me out. Like, luckily, it didn't happen at the same time as any shows I was doing, but it meant I was out for 5 days during what's supposed to be, you know, Christmas for comedians.
Yeah, and you're getting those international germs.
Absolutely,
they come from everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, and you know, you're sharing mics with other comedians. I mean, there was always colds and flus that go around at the festival anyway because of that. But when you have your immune system's compromised, it means so much more. So that's an ongoing. That's one of the side effects of these medication, is that basically once every couple of months I will expect to have a week out really bad with a cold, and that again is where my partner comes in and is amazingly helpful. And what's good now is, previously, if I was out for a week with a cold, you know, it's the old, it's man flu, you know. But now it's like, well, actually, I've got.
Well, did you know I've got a chronic condition? It's the old UC.
Yeah.
So get back to your. It's great to see that you're training, because you're all clearly passionate about that. So what are you doing? Are you back running, or is it in the gym, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I run and I lift weights in the gym, and that was something that
I can see you're a bit more.
But what was I'd never done any stuff in the gym before like that before. I'd only ever ran. So what was really great about that, working with a coach, was starting off very, very small, which I think is really important if you've never really done much. You know, because it can be really overwhelming and, you know, sometimes intimidating. If you've never really, and I hadn't. So starting off really, really small with like very easy sort of exercises, and slowly building up over the last 10 months until you're doing stuff that's more advanced. So when you hear people talk about gyms, if you think, "Oh God, I've never, you know, I don't really know." It
can be quite an intimidating environment for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're worried that you're going to do stuff wrong and people are going to look at you and think, "Oh, bloody hell, they don't know what they're doing." But no one really cares, you know. I would say if you feel like that in a gym, then go find another gym. There's a good thing now is you have loads of good sort of community-based gyms that are really focused on the mental health side of things as well, and making sure that they're very welcoming, inclusive environments. And most towns or cities have a gym that's a bit like that now. And I think getting your health, getting your physical health, better whilst you can, is it just gives you the best fighting chance for when things go a bit, south.
Absolutely, just having yourself in a decent condition to kind of battle through those kind of lower moments.
Yep.
And something you mentioned, your trainer. What's her name?
Rob is my trainer.
Rob,
yeah.
So did Rob have an understanding of UC, or did you have to educate him and he's formulated a program based around that? How does it work?
Basically they didn't know much about it, and sort of I told them I have this condition and what that might mean, and actually the best thing that they have done is just to have a complete understanding when I say, I'm sick, I can't do my workouts this week, I'm ill, or I'm sick, I'm laid up on the couch, I have a calorie goal of what I'm supposed to eat, I'm going to go over because, I'm miserable. And them having a complete non-judgmental understanding of that, going, you're ill, just focus on getting better, and, we'll get back to this when you're feeling better. That has been the best thing, because if you feel like, you
don't feel under pressure, you don't feel stressed, and you feel as that, it's that two-way street that they're working with you.
Yeah.
They're not telling you what you need to do. It's like, right, well, this is a two-way street. We're going to Rob's going to give you the work for you at that time that's going to benefit you, and it takes that pressure away as well.
Absolutely. So that's been the best thing, and with the greatest understanding is that coming from them for sure.
And now Rob's advertising himself as an expert in inflammatory bowel disease. You can check him out on because he knows his stuff. I'm blown away by the weight loss in such a short period of time. This is quite incredible.
I mean, I've never lost 3 stone before, so I don't know how long that's supposed to take.
Compare it to. I just think it sounds dead short.
I mean, the original goal was 10 kilograms in 90 days, and so we hit that, and now we're sort of edging towards 20 kilograms. And the second 10 takes a lot longer than the first 10 because, your body, when you have more, it's easy to get rid of, basically. But it was just about forming a few simple habits, making sure I hit the gym 3 times a week, and learning a lot more about nutrition, which has been very good for my, bowel health as well.
Yeah.
I mean, being a stand-up comedian means often for years I don't really like going on stage with a full stomach, right? Because I'd feel a bit bloated and a bit sluggish. So I'd often eat after shows, which means eating at 11 o'clock at night. So that means often a bag of chips or a pizza on the way home from a gig, which is obviously not great for someone with UC.
No.
So working with, a coach who has sort of encouraged me to do a bit of meal planning and stuff like that has been great for my condition as well, because I'm not getting a pizza on the way home because I know I've got a delicious, prepped meal in my fridge for when I get in that's actually tasty and yummy, and it's going to be much better for me as well, and gets the protein up and all that stuff. So
do you do your own meal prep?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I thought it was going to be tedious, but you get into a swing. It's just about building habits. You do it for a month and then it's second nature, and now I don't really think about it.
It's just what you do. Just part of the routine. Listen, your story is fantastic. It's I think lots of people that are watching this will be able to relate to so much. But I think I'm a fan of you as a comedian. But the fact that you've got this, you've got your show Chronic Boom, and you've kind of really shining a light through comedy is for me is phenomenal. So I know that when this goes out, this year's run at the Fringe will be over, but. Will you be bringing it back next year, or
there'll be a new show for next year? So we're going to start work on that soon. It's not going to be completely focused on the condition, because already have a show like that. It will certainly touch on it, because it's part of my day-to-day life. There's 1 or 2 irons in the fire with this show. We plan to film it at some point and release it probably on YouTube, but that's a work in progress at the moment. So that's. Yeah, we'll keep an eye, keep your eyes peeled.
Well, I would like to say if you need any help with that, we'll push it through all our channels. And
fantastic.
I think the more people within our community and beyond that see your show, the better.
Yep.
Within this country, internationally, I think it's such an important piece of work. It's not only dead funny, but it's educated.
The show is very funny. We should say here.
Yeah, we should say here it's fucking funny. No, it's absolutely phenomenal. So, Liam, we're just going into a bit of quick fire now.
Great, let's do it.
Quick fire. Your top 3 tips for living with inflammatory bowel disease.
Wow. Okay. This is quick fire.
On the spot.
First one: get yourself a radar key. 100%. The access that it gives you to the accessible toilets has been a lifesaver to me many, many times. Secondly, if you're going through the diagnosing process, start now on tracking every time you go to the toilet. Download an app. There's loads of apps that do this. Some of them are literally just called the IBD app. And every time you go to the toilet, you get a Bristol stool chart, which is, it's a bit gross, but it's the kind of standard of bowel movement you're having.
Yeah.
Put it in, so then when you go and see the doctor says, how many times a day you go to the toilet? When you do, what's it like? You've got it all there ready on your phone, and you don't have to go, I'm not sure. And tip number 3, if you know you can't eat garlic chili chicken, then don't eat it.
Do you ever?
I've not had it yet. One day. I'm waiting until I get maybe like a good year of perfect gut health. then I'll try it. But
yeah, just go and fuck it up.
Yeah. Go back to ground zero. Yeah.
I've been healthy for far too long. This is getting boring.
Yeah.
3 most asked questions.
Gosh, people always ask about diet, about, you know, or what can you eat, and actually, if you don't have IBD, and you're listening, don't ever pass comment on what someone you know of IBD is eating, because you have absolutely no idea about. So sometimes I'll eat something and, you know, like I'll be eating a hot dog or something. Someone's like, oh, can you eat that? And it's like, yeah, I can actually. I know that I can eat this, and it's none of your business. You know what I mean? It's rude. Yeah. So
your input is not required.
Yeah. People are always asking about what diet and what you can and can't eat. That's on that level. That's fine. I ask questions. I don't know. People ask sort of what kind of meds you're on and stuff like that. I think people don't really know what to ask because it's kind of a bit of a taboo subject. Yeah. It's a bit embarrassing for people to talk about that. I don't get asked that much stuff about until after the show. People like to ask what medicine you're on, and then you sort of swap stories about that. But yeah, just those 2 are the sort of main ones.
So see, just like kind of go back to touching on the show, you must get in the main with the people that come and meet you afterwards, mostly patients or families, or, you know, or people that are just want to know a bit more about it because they're interested. So
yeah, but because I've been a stand-up for a long time, I also already have a sort of stand-up following. So it's kind of like you get a mix of people who've heard about the show because they have or know someone with IBD, and then people who are just stand-up comedy fans. So it's a real mix in the crowd each night. The people I speak to after tend to be people with IBD, but then often a lot of time you'll get doctors and nurses who come along because they have an interest, and for them it's interesting to hear about it from a patient's perspective.
And tell me this, not to put anybody under pressure, has any of your medical team ever come on the show?
They have. Last year at the Edinburgh Fringe, a bunch of them came and after the show, and I didn't recognise them immediately because the first time I was in hospital was, it was 2022, but in hospitals, everyone was still wearing face masks.
Yeah.
And so they came up to me and they said, we were your nurses whilst you were in hospital. And it was the first time I'd seen a lot of their faces. And so that was actually a really special, really amazing moment to be able to meet them, and that they came, and I'm very kind to them in the show because they do a wonderful job.
They absolutely do, but that's special. The fact that they've came,
good full circle moment.
Came to the show, and I know that a friend of mine who's on the medical team over in Edinburgh, and he's involved in a lot of research. Gozer Ho, he actually had a show last year.
Oh, I met him.
You met Gozer?
I went to his show and he came to my show.
Aye.
Yeah. I met him and his one of his colleagues did a we're talking about bowel disease or something like that. It was called. Yeah. That was a really funny, informative from a doctor's perspective show about it. Yeah, I met Gozer. We know each other. Yeah.
He's a good guy.
It's a small circuit, the inflammatory bowel disease live performance circuit,
But it's getting bigger. It's doubled already. It's doubled already. 3 things that annoy you. Apart from the chili chicken.
Yeah. Just in general about IBD.
Yeah, or your experience.
3 things that annoy me. I love the people who work in the IBD clinic are fantastic, but the way of communicating with them is so archaic. Like, I wish I could just send them an email and say, this is what's going on. What I have to do at the moment is I have to phone an answering machine. I have to leave all my details. I have to wait for them to phone me back. If I miss the call when they phone me back, then I have to start the process all over again. It's a nightmare. That's the number one main annoying thing.
It's almost Victorian.
Yeah, and I understand to overhaul the entire system is going to take a very long time because it's been there for many, many years. But that is probably one of the most annoying things. Thing number 2 is that, as we discussed, being told you're unwell when you feel well. That's really frustrating because you just want to, you're like,
I'm a gym mate.
Yeah, exactly. I guess thing number 3 is having that moment of realization of, we were just saying this is when I'm taking too much on and realizing actually, I need to slow down a bit. It is annoying, you know, like, oh, this is probably going to be too much. This is going to cause too much stress, and I'm putting myself at risk of a flare up here. That is annoying, even though it is something that you just have to adjust to. It is annoying to realize your own limitations compared to what they were pre-diagnosis, you know, and that's something you constantly have to come to terms with.
Yeah, but the good thing is that you recognise it.
Yeah, and it's good, and you know, you're constantly learning and evolving, but it can be annoying when you look at something and go, oh, nah, probably can't do that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Hopes for the future?
Hopes for the future. Well, I hope that the next round of tests come back when they say, oh, yep, this medicine is working for you, so this is the one you're gonna stay on, and that, you know, we have a long period without flare-ups. I think flare-ups are probably inevitable. I think it will happen at some stage again. So I guess my hope is that when it does, it's minor and that we catch it early enough and are able to treat it in a way that is not too damaging, you know, to my life and career. But my general hope is just that these meds work and we have a good long period. I'm about, you know, a year and a bit since last flare up now, so that's already pretty good. So
long may that continue.
Absolutely, yeah.
Long may that continue. And what are you grateful for through this journey?
What am I grateful for? Oh gosh, I think the community is just amazing. You know, being able to meet people at varying different stages of diagnosis and being able to chat and have a laugh and share stories and you know, get to know people who have gone through this or you know, in some cases not, but have an understanding of it. You know, I'm just really grateful that there is a network that is available for people to be able to you know, connect and realize that you're not alone. You know, there are other people who have gone through this. There are other people going through this, and there are people who are going to go through this. And all of your lives are much better if you connect with each other and you learn from each other and talk to each other and just get it out. So I think I'm most grateful for the community.
I think that's fantastic, and I think you're absolutely right. You know, couldn't agree more, Liam. That was absolutely fantastic. Can't thank you enough for coming on the GUTSY podcast. Your story's inspirational. Your show's fantastic, and it's inspiring. What you know, the way you're, as I've mentioned before, you're shining a light in inflammatory bowel disease through your comedy. So, by the time this goes out, you'll have another fantastic Fringe. For anybody watching, check out Liam's new show, which will be out in the new year.
Yeah, at some point. At
some point when it can be arse writing it. And, but we look forward to getting you back at Comedy Cronies in the near future as well.
Fantastic.
And again, on behalf of everybody at GUTSY, thanks a lot, Liam.
Thanks so much for having me, and good luck with the rest of the pod.
Cheers, mate.
Right.